Matthew, everyday audiophile, music lover, and today I want to talk about power conditioning, how important it is for your system, and also give a small review of the Niagara 7000 from AudioQuest and why it wasn't the right choice for me. But first, we have to do the honors. This is the Denton County Hop Blizzard. It's a hazy IPA, 8.5%. This is actually going to be my first time having this beer, so God just got it everywhere. But that's okay. Let's try it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Hazy IPAs usually are if you like that. Okay. So my reference solid-state amplifier is the Rega Osiris. I've had it for about a decade now. And the reason that I call it my reference is for what it is. It is the best sounding solid-state amplifier I've ever heard. And I know people that love Sim Audio or Boulder, any of Griffin, any of the other super high-end brands, you're going to comment and say, it's not as good. But I'm telling you, the Osiris has something special. It's one of the few integrated amplifiers that uses a passive preamplifier circuit mated to their this high gain dual mono design. I mean, it's two 500 VA toroidal transformers. So it is completely dual mono, with the exception of just one power cord, right? Let's just get a little bit more. Now, an issue common with the Osiris is that because it's a passive preamplifier going into this high gain amplifier, it is really susceptible to noise, whether that noise comes from your power line or whether it comes from other components. It's bad. It's bad enough that I've had the Osiris sent in for repair 4 or 5 times in the 10 years that I've had it. Now, luckily, it has a lifetime warranty, which is wonderful. But it's gone back to not just SoundOrg, but Rega overseas. The most recent time that it was there, because I leave it on. I like to leave it on 24/7, but after about 24 hours of it being on, I would just get this hum out of these speakers. And I don't sit too far from my speakers. I probably sit 10 feet from the speakers, 8 feet. So pretty close for how large these Rega RS10s are. And it's not a very big room either. So it's definitely, they're on the large side for the room, but it doesn't matter what speaker I'm using. However, about 24 hours, you can hear that 60 hertz hum. Or sometimes, you get a little 120 hertz hum in there as well. It doesn't matter if there's nothing plugged into it or anything plugged into it. The only time that goes away is if you mute it. So I don't know if that means it's not coming from the power amplifier circuit, it's coming from the preamp circuit, but the preamp circuit is literally just the input switch to a Blue Alps motorized potentiometer and then straight to the power amp. Anyways, in an attempt to fix it, my friend in the audio group that I'm with lent me the AudioQuest Niagara 7000. He actually bought it and he had it shipped to my house. And I wanted to see if that was going to solve the issue. This is a really good beer, by the way. Lo and behold, it did. I hooked up the Niagara. Now, it has 12 outlets in the back, and it requires a C19 input connector, so 20 amps is what it's rated to support. But you can run it off a 15 amp outlet. That's no issues. That's what I did here. That's what my friend that let me borrow it is going to do. But 3 sections. One that's for the power amp, so that's like where the integrated amplifier would go, plus my 2 EL84 monoblocks were plugged into there. And one section for analog and one section for digital. So, your CD player or DAC, digital section. Even the Rune server, I plug that into the digital section, and then preamplifier, turntable, phono stage, that can go in the analog section. No issues. All of my components have a little bit of transformer hum. EL84 monoblocks, the Illicit, the Aura Phono Stage, all of them have some hum. Now that hum is super, super quiet. You can't really hear it until you're a couple feet away, but it's there. And that's just, from what I understand, it's just a nature of having transformers, and especially transformers if your power isn't perfectly clean. But so I hooked them into the Niagara, and lo and behold, all of that transformer hum goes away. All of it. There's zero hum from the EL84s, zero from the Osiris. It is as dead quiet as Rega told me it should be. They said that it is when they had it on their bench, they said it was the highest performing Osiris that they've ever had on their bench, the quietest that they've ever had. So every piece of equipment that was plugged into it was quieter than I'd ever heard before. But there's always a but. But the Niagara itself had a hum, and that hum was greater than the sum of the parts before, which is unfortunate because I really, really wanted this piece to work out. It was loud enough that in this room I could hear it, and it ruined that enjoyment of jazz music, of classical music, anything that had a quieter passage. You could just hear the hum, and once you knew what that hum sounded like, it was game over. Now for louder music, right, rock, or if my wife wants country, or anything that's just louder, it wasn't really an issue because the music just drowned out that hum. But that's only about 15 to 25% of what I listen to. Most of it these days, they're going to have quieter passages. It's going to be a lot of folk. It's going to be a decent amount of jazz these days, not as much as folk, but and a lot of indie in there as well. Well, I was pretty bummed, as you can imagine, and my friend Joey, who lent me it, he was even more bummed because this was going to go in his main system. So we brought over the Niagara to another person in the group, another member of the group. His house is 8 minutes from mine. And there was zero hum at his house. So I was a little bit frustrated by that. Not only was it quieter in his house, it was just quiet. That's all there really was. There was zero hum, zero vibration. It did everything that it should do. So what that tells me about my house, and I have some measurements of the voltage and the DC on it that I'll show right here. What that tells me is that my house sucks. And it sucks in a way that it makes it tough to get that really, really quiet background without some kind of noise somewhere else. Because let me tell you, that Niagara, the one thing that I immediately noticed, and this is probably the one thing that most people talk about when they hear it connected to a system, I was skeptical. But I have never heard transients out of these speakers, these RS10s, like I've heard them when that Niagara was connected. We would listen to La Bamba. I forget the name of the track, but the album is La Bamba. And the explosive dynamics out of these speakers blew me away. And not only did it blow me away, but the RS10s are already a Ford speaker that's a pretty thin soundstage from front to back, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. With the Niagara, they had a soundstage that was very reminiscent of a traditional speaker. And so it basically transformed it into the perfect speaker for me. What that tells me is that an isolation transformer for the room is the right way to go. And it could be what I have to do is get a bigger isolation transformer that then feeds the Niagara. So the Niagara itself won't have a hum. That'll happen someday. But alas, I had to hand it over, and I'm back to what I have right now, which is just an i5 power strip. And it works okay. Like, I would much rather have the lesser dynamics and the not as deep soundstage that I have right now instead of with the Niagara. But then I can't listen to jazz music, right? It's you get one or the other. That's good. I'm going to put that down. And so that kind of brings me to the close of the video, and I'm sorry for the rant. Power is surprisingly important. And no, I'm not going to talk about cables. That is going to be a topic for another video. Just power conditioning in general is something that's very important. When I went from a generic power strip to the iFi power station that I have now, there was already a big jump in performance. Mainly due to, again, it lessened that transformer hum. Because I could hear that hum out of the EL84 monoblocks and the Osiris itself. And the Orophona stage. Everything has a hum. So just that by itself reduced the hum to a level where I can't hear it from my listening position, which is huge. It basically means that it is as quiet of a background as you could ask for. So the next step for me is going to be finding something that gives me the dynamics that I got from the Niagara, but without the hum. Maybe the solution to that is moving, but it's not really in the cards right now. So we'll see. But yeah, that's my review of the Niagara and why it didn't work for me. I'm sure it will work for other people. You just have to maybe check your power. Do you already have a really loud transformer hum? If you do, the Niagara, as awesome as it may be, may not work for you. At least the 7000. It could be that the 5000 is a better choice, and that's what I'm going to try next. And I'll let y'all know how that goes. But until then, I'll catch y'all later. See ya.